Hello everyone. So this is what we're painting again, and I'm going to put it to the side and we will get started. I have out white, tan, and dark brown. If you don't have dark brown, you can just use, if you don't have tan, you can just use the dark brown and just make it much, much lighter. That is up to you. You know, I never get hung up on the colors. I always tell you, use what you have, use the colors you like. You know what, maybe because you don't want the same colors that I have. And that's okay. It is okay. So let me change you guys around. Okay, I have out my tracer, but I'm going to put that aside. I'm just going to mark the spot here first. I'm going to mark it. Let me get a pencil. There. I'm going to put my tracer aside. All right, let me get a ruler. So I like this edge here to be pretty straight. This is the table. All right, so I have a straight line there. That's pretty much, so now this is going to be the bottom of our table. This is going to be the back of our wall, and then we're going to put our glass jar in here. You know I'm big on, I give you guys the tracer, you know I'm big on tracing first and then painting second. But when I'm doing glass, you want to be able to see through the glass to the background. So that's why when we do glass, a vessel, a jar, a vase, a glass, whatever it is, I always do it second. Okay, so another trick. When I am painting horizontal lines, I will, if you want to paint horizontal lines, a lot of times when we're painting across, our arm tends to windshield wipe. Okay, so when I am going to paint horizontal, I turn my canvas so I'm painting vertical. All right, so I have dipped my paint in some white and the tan. We don't want to overblend, and I'm coming in here and I'm going to get my table edge. This way my lines, when I turn my canvas, will be nice and straight vertically, and I'm not windshield wiping my arm. It's just a natural thing to do, and that's why we turn it. So picking up my white, picking up my tan, not over blending, and just doing the base of our table, countertop, whatever it is that our jar is going to be sitting on. Okay, I am painting in this Bristol board book. It is a 9x12. Let me show you what the cover looks like. Mixed media paper, 9x12. I put this in here so I can go right to the edge and I don't have to worry about messing up the rest of my pages. This is just a big piece of plastic I got from somewhere. Okay, so now we've done that part. Now we're going to do our background, and again it's the same colors but a little bit light, and now we want our strokes to be vertical. I want my background to be much more white or light than my tabletop. I'm going to be a little bit heavier on the white but not overdo it. This is going to be a faux wood background. I could be using a bigger brush, I see now, but that's okay. And I'm just going back and forth. I'm dipping most of my brush in the white, and then I'm getting white. Oh, let me put it over here a little bit. And then I'm just putting a corner into this tan or this fawn color. If you don't have tan, you can use your brown and then mix it with a lot of white to get some. We're going to use our dark brown anyway, or our tan straight, but you want to really lighten it up to do your background. And we want to have a faux wood finish. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to come along this bottom line again so I have a nice straight edge. Okay, and then these strokes are going up and vertical, and the table we painted vertically, but our strokes are now horizontal. And I'm just going to keep pulling up. White, corner in the tan, and pull up. You don't want to over mix. You want to see, we don't want a new tan color. We want to see all the variations of the white and the tan. You want to see some dark, you want to see some light. You want to see some darker, some lighter. I want to get as close to the edge here as possible. Okay. And I'm just pulling up. When you blend, you want to go back and forth. You want the paint on your brush and the paint on your surface to be wet. Sometimes when we paint on these pads and these mixed media pads, they tend to suck up the moisture, the water from the paint, and it makes it a little bit harder. So that's why I move quickly. I just learned a trick yesterday, but I wasn't set up to do it. I have a friend that I paint with. I'm in one of her groups, and she will take a spray bottle and spray her surface so her paint doesn't dry too quick while she's getting it all blended in nicely the way she wants it. Okay. All right. So I know it doesn't look like much. It gets there, you guys. You know, you have to trust the process, trust the steps that I come to you with. There's a method for my madness, right? Okay, now we have our background faux wood and our table. I am going to dip in my dark brown now. I want a nice chisel edge on my brush. I want all the fibers of my brush to come together. If you want to use a small round or a liner brush for this, you can. But if you only have a flat brush, you want to make sure the fibers on your brush are good. You want a nice chisel edge here, and you want all the fibers on your brush to be nice. If you need to draw this in first, if you need a pencil or a piece of chalk, go right ahead. I'm going to come right down the middle, as middle as I can, eyeballing it with a straight line. If you want to use a ruler, you can. It is up to you. Okay? And then I'm going to stand my brush up on the chisel edge. I'm using my pinky as an anchor. And I'm going to make a straight line going up my page. Doesn't have to be perfect. Going to get a little bit more dark brown on my brush. I'm going to eyeball now the middle of these two. I'm going to stand my brush up. I'm using my pinky. And I'll draw another straight line. A little bit more brown. Again, stand up. And pull a line. My lines are not perfect. They're thicker, they're thinner. This is our faux wood background. I'm going to do the same thing with this dark brown. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do the table edge. And then I'm going to add in a few streaks of dark brown down there and up here, just enhancing the fact that our background is wood panel, faux wood, a little rustic in the background. And you can make it as thick or as thin or as busy as you want to. Okay? Totally up to you. I'm going to grab a little bit more of this now. I didn't even clean my brush. I'm going to go back and pick up the fawn. And I just want to go over these lines a little bit, make them a little bit thicker, and soften them up a little bit with the fawn. I'm applying a little bit more pressure to my brush. I'm following the dark line, but I'm just adding a little bit of fawn to it. Thicker in some places, thinner in some places. And there we go. Okay, now I'm going to get these other brushes out of the way that I was using for a different project. And wash my brush. Okay. Now we want to, got a little water splashed on there. We can do one of two things. We can wait and wait for this to dry to put our tracer on. We can trace our tracer on, or we can just draw in the mason jar if we want. So I would wait for this to totally dry. I can get a dryer to dry it. It's up to you what you feel comfortable doing, or like I said, you can just come over here with chalk and draw it on. I'm going to grab my dryer and hit it with the dryer for a minute or so. This way I can walk you guys through it step by step. Depending on the thickness of your paint, pretty much the heat or the air conditioning in your room and your surface, your paint will dry quicker or not. Okay, then you can take your, oh, where is mine? Oh, there it is. Your graphite paper if you want. Or like I said, you can hand draw this on here. So I'm going to line it up. I'm going to put a little piece of tape up here so I can make like, this will stay in place and make like a hinge. And I'm going to slip this graphite paper underneath. Let me get a pencil. We'll come in here. And I'm going to draw in my jar. My flag. My flagpole. And that's pretty much all you need for this to get started. Okay? Okay, see that now? And my jars down here, we're gonna put all these flowers in the top. And that's why our jar is down here, our flag is off to the side, and our flowers are gonna give this height. So the first thing I wanna do is get out some blue. This is a true blue. You can use a dark blue, whatever blue you have. I am going to be sticking with this 1/2 inch brush that I started with. This is a number 16 plaid brush. It's about a 1/2 inch wide, about the width of my middle finger. I've said this before, brushes are not universal. Their measurements are not universal. It's not a regulated measurement. So what is a 16 in a plaid is not necessarily a 16 in the Prince brushes or the Artist Loft brushes. So you just have to know that it's about a 1/2 inch flat that I'm using for my 9x12 surface. Okay, and I'm going to load my brush up with some white. I'm going to put a corner in, load it up with blue, sorry, and put a corner in the white. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to, with the blue and the white, trace my jar. If you need to use a small round for this, go right ahead. If you want to use a liner brush for this, go right ahead. If you want to use the chisel edge of your big brush like I'm using, go right ahead. It's totally up to you. Okay? And that is basically now This would be the back line and the inside of our jar. We're not going to worry about it now. We just needed the basic shape. Okay, and I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to put out my greens. Oops, too much. It's okay. So I have a dark green and a light green. I'm using Hauser Light and I think Hauser Dark. Yep, Hauser Dark, okay? And I'm going to stick with this brush. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 flowers. 3 red, 3 yellow daisies, and these 3 blue fillers in the back. So technically we're going to have 9 stems and our pole. Is any going to be counting your stems? Is somebody going to look at your art and be like, wait, I count 9 flowers, but I only see 6 stems. So you know what? If you can't fit 9 stems, don't worry about it. Fit what you can, okay? So I'm going to load the brush with the dark green. I put a little pressure on my brush. I go to the side of my puddle. I want the paint to get up in the fibers. And then I'm just going to dip a tip over here. Now again, if you want to draw these in first, go right ahead. That is up to you. I'm just going to grab my brush and I'm going to start adding in stems. Okay? Pick up a little bit of the dark green, dip in the light green. You want them to cross over. You want them to be at different heights. And they don't really go down to the whole bottom, and I'll show you why later. Okay? Loading up with the green, dipping the corner in the white, and I'm pulling in my stems. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Seven, 8. 9. And I'm not going to worry about the stems up here. Most of this is going to get covered. So I was conscious of having the 9 down here. I still have to put in my flagpole. But I'm not necessarily going to put a flower at the edge of all of these. Okay? I'm going to keep the green on my brush. Of the dark green. I'm going to put a little bit of light green on. And I want to add 3 big leaves. These leaves are going to be in the background. So I'm going to come over here. And the first one I want is here. So I'm going to draw a big football shape here. And fill it in. I have the light green and the dark green on my brush. And I'm filling in a leaf there. Okay? Same thing. Dark green, light green, football shape, and I'm going to put a big leaf in here. Dark green, light green, football shape out here. Dark green, light green, and then another big one up here. Some of these are going to be covered, and we want then a little bit of these to be in the background. So instead of trying to squeeze these in and match them up to the flowers and stuff, I put them in first. We could actually put in another one. I'm going to put one more up in here. I feel better with 5 of these big ones. Okay? And then I'm going to wash my brush. We are working from the bottom up. Pretend like this is a pizza. Down here was the dough, then we put on the sauce, and then we put on the toppings. Okay? So we have our dough, our sauce is our jar in our background, and then our toppings start. And the first toppings we have are the big leaves in the back. Then I'm going to put the yellow leaves on the next layer, and then the red leaves, or the red flowers, are going to be on the top layer. Okay, so we put in these large leaves in the background. The next thing we're going to do are these yellow flowers are also in the background, and we're building our painting from the bottom layer up. Okay, so I washed my brush and eyeballing my sample here. I'm going to take the back of my brush and I'm going to put a center of a daisy here for that one. I'm going to put a center of a daisy up here, and then I'm going to put another center of a daisy out here. And my dots have made a little bit of a triangle, and that is 1, 2, 3 daisies. Okay, let me get some yellow. Some yellow, and I'm going to put out a little bit more fresh white. Okay. Now for your daisies, you can use a medium round brush, like one of these. Okay, and the round brush are completely round as opposed to the flat brush, which is flat on top. So you can use a medium round brush or you can use the flat brush. I'm going to use the medium round brush. Actually, I like this one better. So I'm going to load it with white. And when we load a round brush, we still come over to the side of the pile. I like to tap it around. You want to get the paint up into the fibers of the brush. Okay, so I'm loading it with white. And then I'm going to come over here and pick up some of the yellow. All of our strokes on a daisy go in. And what I mean in, they all go in to the center. So you start outside the center and you come in. And when I do a daisy, I do it like a clock. So I'll come up here, put some pressure, pull in, and that's my 12 o'clock. Pick up some white, pick up some yellow. 6 o'clock, pick up some white, pick up some yellow. 9 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. Okay, it's a face of a clock. 12, 6, 3, 9, and now I will put in the other times. Almost every stroke or every other stroke, I pick up paint. Mostly white, and then I pick up some yellow. Mostly white, pick up some yellow, and there's my first daisy. And this is why we put those leaves in the background, because now they're set back. We have our next layer. Okay, and I'm going to work on my other daisy. So again, pull right into the middle. 12, 6, 9, 3. And then we come in here and we add the rest. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on my brush and I'm pulling in to the center. I'm putting some pressure on my brush and then I'm picking up when I get to the center. Now don't worry that we've gotten paint on our center. We picked up some brown here and there. We're going to go back and fix the centers before we move on. That is totally fine. So I'm still getting white. I'm picking up yellow. And we're going to do the same thing down here. White, yellow, If you want your flower to be really bright and you start mixing up a little bit too much white with it, clean your brush off and go back into just fresh yellow. I'm okay with the variations of my yellow and white I have going on there. Okay, I'm going to go back into my brown now, and using my brush handle like a pencil, I'm just fixing the centers of my flowers so they're nice and brown. And then I'm going to wash my brush. Okay. Now we're going to need to let those dry a little bit, but while they dry, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to pick up some brown, and I'm going to look for it. I guess it's here. And I'm going to put in my pole for my flag. Now the stick, the pole, the flag pole, whatever it is, can be a little thicker than your, what do you call it? Stems. Okay? And I'm going to wash my brush. We need our yellow to dry, so while our daisies are drying, we're going to work on our flag. So I want to come over here and get some nice fresh white, and I'm going to base coat the whole flag in white. Completely covering over the background with nice fresh white. Now we could wait for certain areas to dry. We could stick to doing our flowers the whole time. If you paint this yourself again, it is totally up to you what you do. I like to move around and keep moving. So while one area of my painting is drying, I'm working on another. Okay, so I have that nice base coated in there white. And we have everything inside our jar that we want inside our jar. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of white on my brush, wipe it off, and I'm going to start filling in my jar. I'm just basically almost dry brushing in some white paint. It gives a faux glass appearance. We want our stems, our background, and our flagpole to be behind the glass. Okay? And then I'm going to get a little bit of blue on here, and we're going to paint in the front of our jar. Okay. So we have our stems now inside. The front of our lip is a little bit lower and on a scoop. Our stems are behind, and they're behind this dry brush white that we did up here. You can even take some blue, and if you wanted to add a couple, a little bit more curves up here, you can. And then we put a little upside down one down here for the bottom of the jar. Okay, and I am going to wash my brush. The one thing I like about this jar, well, I designed it, but I like it because now we're going to take our fawn And we're going to make this banner right across the front. So it's going to go right across, almost like we have a burlap ribbon, burlap banner wrapped around our jar. We want it to have a little bit of a dip in it, so it helps us with our curve to our glass. It covers everything behind it because this is a piece of ribbon. And there we go. So you can take the actual structure of this jar that we built, it's a mason jar, put your stems in it, put your white over to make it the faux glass, have your lip here, and then put any kind of band on the front of it that you want. And you can leave the band, you can decorate it, whatever you want, and then make your own floral arrangement up here with probably the dozens of flowers I've showed you guys how to paint over the years and throughout the videos. Okay, I'm gonna wash my brush. I want to give my flag another coat. I can see through the background a little bit. So I'm going to come in here with my white, and I'm going to give my flag just another nice coat of white, and we'll let it dry. Okay, that's much better, much better. Let me wash my brush. Give it a nice dry here. Okay. That's red. Okay. Now, I'm not a good letterer. I find brush lettering hard. I've been practicing it, but I find it a little hard. But that's okay. It doesn't deter me from doing it. If you wanted to get a stencil, if you wanted to get a tracer, if you wanted to skip this part, it is totally up to you. I'm going to letter in. The first one I'm going to do is the S for the middle. I'm using the medium round brush. And I'm just painting in a printed block letter S. Okay. Okay, and rinse my brush. S's are hard, you guys. Like I said, if you wanted to get a stencil or just trace something and print it out of your printer, that is totally up to you. Now I'm going to get some blue. I'm going to do our U. And some more white again. And then the A is fairly easy. Okay. And wash my brush. Okay, I'm going to get my dryer again real quick. And don't forget, you can always hit, you have the recording for this, you can always hit the pause, catch up, rewind, whatever you need to do in order to do your painting the way that you want to do it, or keep up, or try something again, or if you miss something I said, it's easy. Just hit fast forward, record, rewind, whatever you need to do. It's really important before we add our red flowers that our yellow and white are dry. If we start adding our red flowers on top of the yellow and the white and they're still a little damp, we're going to end up with pink. and we don't want that. So I want my yellow daisies and my flag to be pretty dry. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start working on my flag. I'm going to pick up some blue, and I just want to make the blue part. Using my flat brush, and I'm making the star part. I think that's good. Again, if you want to draw this on first with a pencil and measure it out, you can. You guys know I hardly measure anything. I'm always eyeballing. Okay, I'm gonna brush my brush. I'm gonna go back to that round brush that I was using before that I did the lettering in. And I'm gonna get the red. And I'm going to come down here, and about the width of the brush, I'm going to make my first red stripe there. And then I'm going to do the one up here. Okay. Then again, depending on how perfect you want to be, you may want to measure these out. You may want to use a ruler. I'm just going for it, y'all. Okay? And that is it. I'm going to use the back of my brush, and I'm going to add in some faux stars. Oh, I need this. I'm going to put that little, sometimes our flag sticks or poles have that little round thing on top. Okay, I'm going to wash my brush. Okay, while I wait for my flag to dry, I'm going to start on my red flowers that are in the front. Okay? We're going to do the same thing we did. We're going to put our flowers where we need to be by putting in the centers first. So I'm going to use the back of my brush. I'm going to come up here. We're going to make one nice red one up there. We're going to make one red one down here. And then we're going to put one, I guess, here somewhere. It's going to cover a little bit of our flag, but that's okay. All right. I'm going to mix a little bit of this burgundy with my red. I don't think I put burgundy on the list. If you wanted to mix burgundy, if you wanted to get a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of black, you could. I want these flowers to be very, very deep red. So I'm actually going to double load my brush with both of these colors. I have the red side and the burgundy side. I put my brush right down the middle of them, and I have both colors on my brush. If you guys have painted with me before, these flowers are a lot like sunflowers, but they're red. So I'm going to lay down my brush. I'm going to pull it out to a point and stand up. Okay, red and burgundy. lay it down, pull it out to a point, and stand up. Red and burgundy, pull it out to a point and stand up. And there's our first red flower. It's okay, we want a lot of overlap going on. We're gonna fix the center. We have other things to add. But we're just gonna keep going. Every time I pick up both colors of paint, and I'm just holding my brush flat, I push away, and I turn to a point. I'm holding my brush flat, I push away, I turn to a point. I'm gonna put one more in there. Okay. Now my brush is starting to get a little, I got some yellow, but my brush is starting to get a little crazy. A little paint built up. That's not good. So I'm just gonna take it, I'm gonna put it in my rag, I'm gonna wipe it off just to get the paint globs off of it. You don't have to wash it. You just want to get the paint globs off and go back into your paint. So again, red, burgundy. Load up my brush. Okay. Our brush is neat, straight on the top, no bedhead. And now here is my last flower. I'm just doing the same thing, pulling out and down. You can add another one in here. Should I put another one? No, I think that's good. I could put another one here, but I actually like the yellow peeking through, so I'm gonna leave that. I think it's good. All right, let me just wipe off my brush, because then I'm gonna wash it. Okay. All right. Now we want to let that dry. So while that's drying, we're going to add a few more leaves. So I'm going to come over here, and we want to add a few leaves down here. So I'm going to pull a stem down there, and then I'm going to put these little football shaped leaves on this stem. I'm using both the dark green and the light green. Dark green, light green. And I'm just painting in these little football shapes and attaching them to the leaf, to the stem I put in there. Okay, do the same thing over here. Pick up some dark green, pull out a little stem like that, and then add these little football shapes with both color greens on my brush. Not over mixing. We can come up here, put another few ones up here. You can really make this as full or as sparse as you want. It's art, it can't be wrong. If you want a little bit more leaf, it is up to you. Now to balance out my green here, I'm going to put a few up here. And I'm basically just putting in these little football shapes, and if I have too much of one green, I pick up the other green. If I have too much light, I pick up dark. If I have too much dark, I pick up light. Okay. Now I want to add stems to all these big leaves. So I'm going into the straight dark and I'm just pulling a stem into all of my leaves. I'll do the same thing for my little leaves. I'm just going into the straight dark paint. I'm using the very tip of the brush and I'm pulling in stems to the inside of every leaf. Okay. And then I'm going to wash my brush. Now we want to add in some of these filler flowers. And they probably will not be exactly where they are on this one because this is not exactly where they are. You can't paint the same exact thing 2 times. It's always going to be a little bit different. And that's okay. You can tell it's the same design, but of course it's not going to be the exact same. So I'm going to start up here with this one. And these are little clusters. And what happens is they get a little bit wider on the bottom. So they're tapered up top. You want to tap them in. You want to be able to see through them a little bit. And they're a little bit wider on the bottom than they are up top. One there. We'll put one up in here. And they could go over what you have or in front of what you have. It is up to you. This one I'm going to make it look like it's tucked in the back. So it's behind the yellow and the leaf. All right. And we can put one out here behind this leaf. Again, like I said, these aren't, it's not going to be the exact same as my first one, and that's okay. And I'm trying to decide if we want one here or maybe another one out there. Maybe we'll do this one up here. And I'm just using the small round brush and I'm just tapping. And I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to pick up some white, and now I'm just going to add a little bit of white, just a little bit, not as a couple little highlights, tapping my brush. There we go. Okay. I'm going to get the dryer real quick. I'm going to show you how we're going to finish off our statement flowers, the big red ones in the middle. Make the centers really nice and add some details to that, and then we'll be all done. Okay. So I'm going to pick up some fresh yellow here, and I want to fill in my centers. Again, we put our centers in first so we know where we're going to make our flowers, and we have our eye has a direction of where to go when we're doing our petals. But then we want our center to be on top, so we will always come back in and fix our center. and put out a tiny bit of black. And I'm going to grab my liner brush. And we'll use our liner brush again. I'm constantly twirling it between my thumb and forefinger. We want to get it nice and loaded up with paint, but we want it to be nice and pointy. And we're going to come around here. We're going to give our center of this flower a border. We don't want it to be just any old border or a round circle. We're not tracing it. You see I'm going a little bit jagged. We want this border to be uneven and wavy, but to be a basic circle. Okay? Then still with the black, I'm going to lightly pull some little shading, tiny little lines from the center and pull them out. And see the difference between this one now that has the center lines and this one? Maybe a little bit of a line there, okay? It just, you want these to be really thin. You want them to be a little bit curvy. They're coming up the center of each of the petals. And it just makes such a huge difference in your flower. The littlest detail right there. They're nice and thin, but look at the difference now with these two and that one that we still have to do. I'm just flicking in these little tiny lines. You want your paint to be thin. If your black paint is a little too thick, add a little bit of water to it. And there we go. And wash my brush. And there it is. And like I said, you can add as many flowers to this or as many leaves as you want. The important thing is that, I'm a mess. The important thing is that your stems and everything are in the back. We use the blue to give our glass a faux look, and we cover the front glass with this white, make it a little bit of cloudy, so we know that our stems are behind, the glass is in front, and then you could just put on that little ribbon. Our flag got covered, but that's okay. We had a nice layering effect going on here. Let me turn you guys around. And there we have it. Here is my patriotic mason jar. Let me pull this out. It looks a little neater like that. Very similar, very a little different. So, thank you for joining me.